So today, let's talk about the 2021 iPad Pro because clearly there's some buzz for this next iPad refresh amongst my community. Because I pretty much come across a comment from you guys about this iPad Pro refresh every single day. So clearly a lot of you guys are waiting to buy this iPad, and I might have some information regarding it that might get you guys worried. Because of course, as someone who covers Apple news, I of course check the latest about this iPad Pro regularly, and I've covered a lot of sources, I've covered a variety of reports and leaks and rumors, and one thing I've noticed with most of them is the clear absence of the 11-inch model. There just doesn't seem to be any reference to the smaller iPad Pro. In fact, today's fresh report from Digitimes also mentions that the 12.9-inch model with Mini-LED is on track for Q1 2021, but there is no mention of the 11-inch size, and so that just seems really odd to me. And so today I thought I'd make a video discussing what possible directions Apple could take the 11-inch smaller sized iPad Pro next in 2021. And so without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification, and with that being said, let's just tuck in. So I think the first and possibly kind of stupid direction Apple could take with the iPad Pro, the smaller version anyways, is possibly just not touch it. Just leave it as it is and update the bigger model. Now this was hinted by John Prosser a few months ago. He claimed the 12.9-inch model will be getting a 14X with 5G, but Apple would just leave the 11-inch model as it is. And honestly, I'm not too sure why Apple would do this, because I feel like it would just confuse things a lot, especially since the iPad lineup as it is right now in terms of the chips is pretty cluttered. For example, we have the iPad Air with the A14 chip, but then we have the iPad Pros with this A12Z, and to the average consumer, 14 is higher than 12, and 14 is in the Air, and the Pro, which is of course the more expensive machine, has the worst chip. And so imagine the confusion that arises when Apple gives the bigger iPad Pro the A14X and then leaves the 11-inch size with the A12Z, which technically would be older than the A14 in the iPad Air. So yes, clearly that is a bad idea. And to add to this chip confusion, there is the whole kerfuffle with the Z and the X and all kinds of letters in the alphabet. So yes, that is a very, very bad idea. I think that would be the bad move, and so hopefully that is not the case. And so that neatly brings me over to the next thing Apple could be doing with the 11-inch iPad Pro, and it's something that 9to5Mac mentioned, and that is the fact this smaller version of the iPad Pro could be getting the chip and feature upgrades, but of course without Mini-LED. Now, of course, this is what I referred to at the beginning because supply chain reports are pretty much confirmed in believing that the 12.9-inch model of the iPad Pro will get the Mini-LED screen first. And of course, Digitimes' report from today pretty much echoes the same thing. So the 12.9-inch model gets Mini-LED first, but there is pretty much no mention of 11-inch Mini-LED panels being made for, of course, the smaller iPad Pro. So this basically tells us that maybe Apple's thinking of diversifying the lineup and possibly incentivizing people to upgrade to the bigger model by giving it the better display technology. Now, yes, I know this is somewhat more reasonable than the first thing I mentioned, but I still feel this is unlikely because Mini-LED, as far as we know, is going to be the big upgrade with these new iPad Pros, and so it would be odd to leave that out with the 11-inch size. Why can't Apple bring that to the smaller model? And of course, not to mention the 11-inch and 12.9-inch version of the iPad Pros have been pretty much near identical in the past, and so it would be pretty odd for Apple to break that rule. But again, I do want to mention Apple did break the rule with the iPhone Pros because, of course, the 12 Pro Max has a slightly better camera than the regular Pro, and so maybe Apple wants everybody to get the biggest and baddest product in their lineup, so possibly Mini LED, like I mentioned, could incentivize people to upgrade and go for the bigger model. But to be honest, as amazing as the 12 Pro Max's camera sounded on paper, it's pretty much near identical to the 12 Pro, whereas of course Mini LED is going to be a huge upgrade over LCD, and so again, it just seems very weird that such a big feature upgrade, a headline feature, is absent from, of course, the 11-inch iPad Pro. But anyways, those are the unlikely directions Apple could take with the 11-inch iPad Pro. Now, let's delve into the more likely directions, in my opinion. So this might come as quite a shocker for a lot of you guys, but I think Apple might be ready to kill the 11-inch size. Because of course, when the iPad Air debuted with its 2018 iPad Pro design, a lot of people wondered, why would someone pay the premium for the iPad Pro? Because of course, yes, it has ProMotion and 120Hz is buttery smooth, but to most people, that's not enough of an incentive to pay extra for the 11-inch iPad Pro, and so many people will be satisfied with, of course, the cheaper and more colourful iPad Air. And yes, I'm aware the iPad Air is technically smaller than the iPad Pro because for some weird reason it's 10.9 inches instead of 11 inches, though I'm sure that doesn't make a huge difference. Anyways, coming back to the death of the 11-inch size, another thing to consider about the iPad Pro is that Apple's trying to make this a laptop replacement for some people, and so the bigger size is really what's ideal for a computer-like experience, and so again, the 12.9-inch size possibly being the only iPad Pro size does make a lot of sense to me. Also, remember the first iPad Pro was the 12.9-inch model. That was the first one that debuted back in 2015. And so for Apple to make the 12.9-inch size the solo option once again, that would be ideal. And to back this up, I guess, there is a source on Twitter claiming the same thing, though I really don't know how credible this source is, so take this information with a grain of salt. Of course, the only issue is the price, because right now I feel like the price is somewhat even across all models. For example, you have roughly a $200 gap between each model, and if Apple removes the 11-inch size, the jump from the Air to the 12.9-inch Pro is going to be huge. So yes, there might need to be a model in between those, and so that neatly brings me on to the next possible option Apple could take with the iPad Pro. And that is, of course, to make the iPad Pros bigger, because clearly everybody wants bigger iPads, so give us a bigger, smaller version of the iPad Pro. I've just realized I said bigger, smaller. That makes zero sense, but you get what I'm trying to say. Make the 11-inch model slightly bigger. So I do want to mention there is pretty much no leaks referring to this, so this is just me spewing all kinds of predictions at you guys, but I think it makes sense. I think if Apple could make the smaller version of the iPad Pro slightly bigger at possibly 12 inches, that could differentiate it from, of course, the iPad Air. Because of course, like I said, the average consumer is going to see the iPad Air and the 11-inch Pro, and they're going to notice how similar they are. So making the Pro slightly bigger, that's going to incentivize some people to possibly go for the iPad Pro. And so, if I say so myself, I think that is the perfect solution, and like Jeremy Clarkson says, I think my genius is almost terrifying. Actually, there is an issue with the 12-inch iPad Pro, and that is the fact it's not that much bigger than the 12.9-inch version of the iPad Pro. And of course, we haven't heard reports of a bigger iPad Pro, so I have no clue what's happening, okay? I just give up now. I don't know what Apple's going to do with the iPad Pro. Clearly, they have some sort of idea, so we just have to wait and see what happens. But for the time being, I have no clue. This video was just a waste. Why are you still watching this? That is my question. Why are you still watching this? Okay, I kid. Of course, there is a possibility that we could see a bigger 32-inch monster of an iPad in the near future, but for the time being, I think that killing the 11-inch iPad Pro makes a lot of sense. But tell me in the comments below what you think of this whole situation. Although, just watch how these rumours were all wrong and we just end up getting two versions of the iPad Pro with Mini LED and 5G like we've had for years now. Anywho, that's about it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click that notification. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.